We now continue with more of the Mark Milton Show with The Smash on 590 The Fan and 590thefan.com.
When you hear that music, you know you are with the St. Louis tax lawyer, stltaxlawyer.com, talking about Mark Milton. This is the Mark Milton Show, brought to you here in the Miller Furniture Studios by Miller Furniture. It's fantastic here.
Absolutely. I could use one of their lazy boy recliners right now.
I prefer Flex Steel, my man, because I believe in strength.
That's right. The Flex Steel is excellent. We are also joined by Professor Anders Walker, St. Louis University School of Law professor, constitutional law, criminal law, and American legal history expert. Professor, I want to get your take on what we saw this week in Louisville, the state of Kentucky, the Breonna Taylor case. So this is a case that I didn't know a lot about until I watched the press conference yesterday with Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who himself is an African-American Attorney General there. And he kind of laid out the facts as were presented to a grand jury, which ultimately decided not to charge the officers involved in the killing of Breonna Taylor with any sort of murder charge. And I think initially the narrative was, at least maybe this is my mistaken understanding, but I had initially heard this was police executed a search warrant. They went into the wrong apartment,
right,
and killed this girl while she was in her sleep. And then you hear yesterday the facts are, well, actually, the warrant was related to her boyfriend, who was a suspected drug dealer. It wasn't a no-knock warrant. They actually did knock repeatedly, announce their presence before entering the apartment. They go into the apartment. The boyfriend shoots one of the officers. The officers return gunfire. Yeah. Tragically, Miss Taylor is killed. And so it just, it kind of just brought me back to the Michael Brown situation here, where you had the narrative initially of the hands up, don't shoot. He was, unarmed black kid who was killed, doing nothing wrong. And then it comes to find out he actually attacked a police officer. So, Professor Walker, what's your take on the Breonna Taylor case? And do you think they got it right with the grand jury?
I think the grand jury got it right. I think they probably should not have issued this warrant. These are dangerous. You're going to go in the middle of the night. You're going to kick in a door. And even if they knock, and I think you're right, apparently they did knock, but Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, thought it was a home invasion.
Understandable, yeah.
It's understandable, actually. I mean, who's going to knock on your door in the middle of the night? And so he shoots. The two officers at that point legally are within their discretion to return fire. And then there's this tragic outcome, which is they end up shooting Breonna Taylor, who's totally innocent.
Right.
And as far as I understand it, they didn't find any narcotics in the apartment, and it may have been her previous boyfriend they were looking for. And so it sounds like the police department had bad information and probably should never have issued this. However, the officers were in their discretion as a technical legal matter. They should not be charged with murder or manslaughter. The officer who was charged, apparently after the first round of gunfire, he then comes in after the fact and fires 10 shots, quote, wildly into the apartment. He's the one who's then charged with wanton endangerment because he just seems to have panicked and started shooting. But for the average person on the street who's not trained in criminal law or legal analysis, this looks like they kicked in some poor woman's door and killed her for nothing.
Exactly.
No,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a tragic situation. Obviously, we saw the unrest this week in Louisville as a result.
But you know what, guys? That's the image that it's going to be forever. That they kicked down the door, they jumped in like that and started shooting wildly. And, of course, the boyfriend shoots back. And that's going to be the image forever, whether that's the right image or not. But that's the one that's going to play to the streets, and that's the one that's going to play to those who are going to bring the upheaval.
Well, I'll tell you, the image that stood out to me last night was I'm watching the coverage of the protests, and they've got a U-Haul truck that I don't know who delivered it to the scene where they're protesting, and they unload a U-Haul truck filled with signs, batons, shields for the protesters. Yeah. I'm thinking to myself, who's funding this?
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing to me anytime we have these tragedies the coordinated response that we're seeing from the protesters, the rioters, whatever you want to call them. Professor Walker, what's your take on what's driving all this unrest?
It's like a radio station promo, man, where the promo squad comes in, has all the stuff, gives it to the DJs, and you promote the gig.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. Go ahead, Professor.
Yeah,
Sorry, I jumped in
think
there, man.
we've got some complicated stuff going on here. I mean, I think some of the people in the streets probably just view this as an outrage, and a poor woman was killed for nothing. And then I think you have people who are using these incidents to push a covert narrative or kind of an agenda. I don't know where these shields came from, but I think there are definitely groups who are interested in stoking this kind of stuff. And the thing is, police departments around the country just now have to have a communications officer, and they need to think carefully about how everything's going to play in the media, because everything's covered. And so that's going to affect the way departments do business. So Louisville apparently now has done away with the no-knock warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not going to see this again in Louisville. Now, the thing is, if Pablo Escobar is in an apartment, then you use a no-knock warrant.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure that he's in there and not some poor woman who's actually an EMT, an emergency responder. So, we'll just have to see, but this definitely is kind of part of a narrative of aggressive policing, and my guess is departments are just going to dial it down, and we're going to see a little less law enforcement, and maybe that'll solve it. I don't know.
Well, speaking of playing the media, this week also there was a video that was produced and released by an organization called Fight Back. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Professor Walker, but it was actually started by the attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse, who's the shooter in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who has been charged with first-degree murder, multiple counts of first-degree murder. And his attorney also represented the kid from Covington Catholic High School who, the MAGA hat last year or 2 years ago.
Got him $90 million.
Yeah. So, but this video, man, it's clearly, it has a kind of a propaganda feel to it, but it's basically intended to come to this Rittenhouse kid's defense about, who he was, why he was there, the circumstances, who these people that got shot were. I mean, the guy, the one individual who he killed initially, is a long criminal history. They kind of provided context to why that guy might have attacked Rittenhouse, and then why Rittenhouse ultimately shot him. Although the video of that is not exactly clear of what took place. But what is clear is that the media's initial reporting of this Rittenhouse kid being a white supremacist who went to the Kenosha riots, just seeking to kill people, is clearly undermined by the video. I mean, he's shown on the video saying he's there to help people if they're hurt. He's got his med kit with him. He's carrying a
rifle, though, man.
He's got his rifle to protect himself. I mean, I'm just saying. Look, it's crazy that he went there. Yeah. There's no doubt. Like, I don't understand why you would put yourself in that position. I mean, to protect your friend's property. I mean, it's just not worth it. But again, if you're talking about the media's portrayal of something from the beginning, for this DA to charge him within 48 hours of multiple counts of first-degree murder is just not supported by the video evidence that I saw in this video. And now maybe there's other testimony, eyewitnesses, whatever. But I don't know, Professor, did you have a chance to see that? I think it was like 11-minute video that they put out.
Yeah, so I think Rittenhouse has got a good case for self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, so when you break it down and you go through it, analytically, and you look at the issues, I think in the initial encounter, he's got a good case for self-defense. I think the guy he initially shot was assaulting him.
And he was crazy. That guy was nuts. Yeah. He was shown on videos.
That guy was nuts, and I think that's coming out now. And then he runs for it, and then he gets attacked again.
Yeah.
And the two people he shoots, one was hitting him with a skateboard.
Yeah.
And the other one had a gun.
Yeah.
And so I think when you break that down, and this is how it goes in all these incidents, you're going to find he's probably within his discretion to shoot in self-defense. And you're right. He's become a meme on both sides. So on the left, he's become kind of a white supremacist. And on the right, I don't know if you've seen the flag now of "Don't Skate on Me," and it's like the "Don't Tread on Me" flag.
Wow. Don't skate
so
on
this
me.
guy, he's now a political football. So, the right have embraced him and the left have embraced him. But the reality is he's probably going to get acquitted.
And then we'll have another riot and more destruction and more. I mean,
And
it's just
then
never
there's
ends.
going to be more media about that.
Now, this is going to sound terrible, but I was actually blown away by how much restraint this kid showed. Like, so he's on the ground, right? And he's getting hit, but he gets hit in the head with a skateboard. Yeah. That guy comes back at him. He shoots him. Tragically, that guy ends up dying. This other guy with the gun puts his hands up like he's going to surrender, and you can see Rittenhouse has the rifle pointed at him, but doesn't shoot him right away. The guy he sort of surrenders. Yeah. Rittenhouse doesn't shoot him, but then he lunges at him with the gun, and that's when he shoots him. And then, like, I don't know, man. The whole thing is crazy to watch, to see how it all played out. And then he goes running and looking for police. Rittenhouse is trying to surrender and tell the police, hey, I shot someone, like, they need help. I don't know. The whole thing, look, I'm trying to be as objective as possible, and it drives me crazy when the media jumps to conclusions, when district attorneys like this charge what they do. There's no way they had all the evidence to be able to charge first-degree murder. It's just not possible, given what we've now seen. They clearly didn't see this stuff, or else I don't think they would have brought these charges, because now that they have, they're ultimately probably either going to get dismissed or you're going to have an acquittal, putting us right back in another showdown in the streets, which nobody wants.
It's going to be.
Nobody wants.
Showdown in the streets. Wow.
Well, it's exhausting what's going on right now in the country. It's sad. Yeah. So, but Professor Walker, we appreciate your insight as always. We thank you for being with us here on the Mark Milton Show, broadcasting from the Miller Furniture Studios and presented by STLTaxLawyer.com. Remember, the choice of lawyer is an important decision. Should not be based solely on advertisements. Professor Walker, thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we will be right back in a second. Actually, before that, I want to tell you guys about my friends at Ravensburg. Okay, Ravensburg Incorporated.
Right up.
If you need a commercial space built out, interior build out, maybe you need some cabinetry, some caseworking, maybe you need a laboratory built, maybe you need a gymnasium at your Ladue home smash, maybe in your back. You've got like a carriage house we could convert into a.
I already have a scream room. That's where I go, and it's 3x3. I stand there and scream as loud as I can. It doesn't bother anyone.
Well, or alternatively, you might have a room in your house where you want to put up a movable wall system, so you can separate yourself from maybe people in your family that you don't want to be around.
Exactly.
If you need any of that, Ravensburg Incorporated is who you need to call. You can check them out, Ravensburg.com. Tell them Milty sent you. They'll take good care of you. Design and build firm. They can do it all. Check them out at Ravensburg.com. We will be right back in a second. The Mark Milton Show with The Smash.